Okay, hello, good evening. So I think this is a first for me doing a stream this late, but I fell asleep on the couch earlier today, and everyone's in bed already. It's like a quarter to like 10 here, so that was a bit early. But that's nice for me because then I can actually try to do a stream. And I'm working on the Sandpack stuff. And if you followed along last time, I was basically trying to think about the general architecture for Sandpack as we're going to introduce VMs to Sandpack as well. And it was a bit overwhelming, like how it worked and like how do you resolve that. But I found a really nice way to do this, which is to basically replace the old Sandpack client with Sandpack environments. Because Sandpack client was built with the purpose of exposing an API to interact with the bundler, the Sandpack bundler. But as things have progressed, it got its own like static environment, it got its notebox environment, and now it's going to get its VM environment. So it's like, it's just diverging from its original idea. And what this environment exposes is a generic interface of Sandpack environment where you can, yeah, and we're going to talk about this, create preview, but it has a file system. Instead of like passing in like initial files all the way into Sandpack client, now it just exposes a file system. And it's up to the higher abstraction to write to that file system if you have anything initial to show. Because with a VM, you already have a bunch of files when you're connected. So I also have wine. Anyways, so I actually have the file system running, and it's very interesting how it works, because currently I'm calling it the static file system and it has the full implementation, but this is probably going to be moved to like an in-memory file system, which is going to be used by the bundler environment as well. But it handles like, and that's also a thing, like previously Sandpack was thinking about files as just an object of paths. It didn't really have directories, but now it needs to have directories because of a VM. You can have a directory in a VM that's empty, right? So, and then it allows you to watch a specific directory, or you can watch the whole file system. And watching a directory is related to the file explorer because we're going to watch changes to specific folders and like read the folders again every time they change, while the global file watcher is to recompile the code. So we wouldn't really use the global file watcher for a VM because it has its like own bundler running and that happens on the VM. But for like the other environments, we need to globally watch changes to the file system. Anyway, so I'm actually super happy about that abstraction. And then in our actual file explorer, the way this works now is that you have this thing called module list, and it actually just has an effect that reads the directory, sets the entries, and there's a directory entry now, which is which is like an entry has a name and it has a type. Is it a file or is it a directory? And then we return a watch to that directory on the path, and we keep the entries up to date. And then we just go and grab what are directories, what are files, and then we render out directories and files. And then we just pass the path, and then it does the whole thing again. So it's like a recursive thing. So yeah, that's pretty nice. But then we have the actual preview. So we're going to try to show the preview, which is really not going to work yet. Let's just do return null here for now. Because the thing is that we need to have the iframe before we can actually like mount the preview. And currently I created this this type called or this interface called create preview. but I'm not sure if this is a good way to do it. Because the reason is that we actually need to, well, the thing we're going to try, first of all, create preview. Here we go. So we're just going to return here for now. Console.log create preview iframe. I think we're going to use a ref for this. So we're kind of going to initialize the preview using a ref. So we're actually going to create the preview, but it's going to have a method on it which initializes it, which is based on the ref passing in the actual iframe element. Because then in the component we can say like create preview, so that you actually have a preview reference. But then we're gonna have a method on that preview, which is called initialize or something. And then we can set that as a callback to the actual ref on the iframe element. But I don't really like that either. Because now, okay, we're gonna try something else first, because then we're tuning this interface to fit with React, and this is too low level to fit with React. So what might be better is that we actually introduce a state for this thing, where we are going to the thing is that, like, when you use a ref and you set that ref, the component doesn't re-render, right? When I use a ref with an element in React, does the component re-render or reconcile when the ref is set? Or I guess I have to use, yeah, no, I just have to use an effect. Yeah, so we're gonna try to create some simple state here. Let's just call it type preview state, and then we're gonna say current is pending or something, and then current is active, and then current is error. And when it's active, we're gonna have the actual preview, Sandpack preview. Oh, didn't I? Oh, I didn't expose it. Sandpack preview. Let's just expose Sandpack file system as well, as we're at it. Preview, Sandpack preview. Kind of happy about the development flow as well, even though we need to build every time. That's fine. So we're gonna say current is pending. And then we're gonna, let's see, how should we do this? Let's see, let's not return null. Let's just not, okay, so we have start route. So this is something we would actually pass. So let's do a React use effect here for the state. And what we're gonna do is if state.current, wait, why doesn't this work? Oh, look at me. State.current equals, I'm gonna call it idle. We're gonna have an idle state as well. And the reason is when it's idle, we're going to move to pending or mounting or something. So what we're going to do, we're going to say set state. Yeah, and here we have the preview ref. Well, we don't actually need to. No, we can call it pending. That's fine. And then we set it to active, sorry. Pending, set state, oops, current, active. And then the preview is n.create preview. And then we have preview ref current. This should be a HTML iframe element. And then if we actually don't, yeah, let's do the opposite here. If it's not equal to pending, let's return. If no, preview ref current. We're gonna throw new error. Or we're gonna set it to the active. Why are you complaining? Oh, N. Okay, so the point here is that we are now firing up the initial UI to get the iframe reference, and then as soon as it mounts, we're gonna check the current state, and then we're gonna set it to the active state, and giving it the iframe reference. Now the problem here, when I'm thinking about yeah, it's probably fine. Let's just do this. What are you complaining about? Is already defined? Where? Oh, is it here? Oh. Isn't that typical? Okay, let's do as Sandpack and then we're gonna do Sandpack and Sandpack preview. Cool. Okay, so let's continue down here. It also has a lot of stuff I don't know what is. I have no idea what this stuff is. So what the hell is client ID? And then it has this computed thing. So I think we're just gonna like comment this one out because we don't really have this anymore. So there's a Sandpack status that we don't care about. And then we have use Sandpack navigation, but now that's actually on the preview. Oh, and then we have a shell. Why is the shell here? Is that part of the preview? Oh, so if it's node, then it has a restart. Restart what? Restarting the shell? Or restarting the whole process? Okay, that's something we have to figure out. So we don't have refresh here anymore. We don't have restart here anymore. This one's interesting. So it seems like we can get a resize message. But I don't know from where. I guess there's a hook that's like use, I think I saw that, like some kind of observable. No, I must have been dreaming. Can I just find all references? Yeah, like I have no idea where that one's coming from. But I guess it's coming from Sandpack client. Find in folder, listen. Oh, sorry, resize. Okay. So we do have something called watch resize. But again, this is like something, this is also like, well, separation of concerns. So now that we call it environments, it's clear that the environment doesn't care about any resizing. That doesn't make any sense. And I wonder why Sandpack client cares about resize. So is it passing resize into the... I don't understand. Go to references. Oh, yeah, exactly. So this is being passed into the inject message. Yeah, this is being injected into the iframe. You see this? It's a toString. So it's not running the code in... yeah, okay. So it's sending resize events out from... polling strategy. Interesting. Okay, so the question now becomes, what is responsible for injecting these things? I think this is like... And this is also interesting. So this is only part of... So this is the old Sandpack client. And the only thing that actually injects this thing is the VM, or which used to be called node. And then the question becomes, why? Why is this only injected for node? Why isn't it injected for the other? And why is it injected at all? Like, why do we care about resize? Set computed auto height. Auto mode. And when the computed height was returned by the bundler. I really dislike that we call it the bundler. It's really an iframe. It's really an environment. The bundler is just part of it. Set height based on the content only in auto mode. What the hell is auto mode? CodeSandbox, Sandpack. What is auto mode? Auto mode. Let's see. Layout mode. It's not related to that. Auto. Oh, no, that's auto run and auto mode. Huh, I have no idea what this is. And the thing is, I kind of wanna, as part of this process of doing this, like taking the ownership of this project and refactoring it so that it fits with the whole VM concept and everything, I want to question a lot of things to make sure that we actually need it. I'm not sure how I'm going to keep track of that. But I think I kind of want to just do it in the code. So question, what we need to compute resize. Why we need to compute this height. It comes from a subscription to resize, which comes from an injected script in the iframe. iframe, but only on notebooks. Yeah, so we're gonna do that, and then we're just gonna remove the thing. Cool. Let's just do this. And then we have handle new URL. Okay. So why don't we have, oh, this will be iframe preview ref. Yeah, let's call it iframe ref to not confuse it with the actual preview. And I have no idea where client ID comes from. And why do we even have it? What is it used for? If listen, oh, it's to listen to messages. Why do we need a client ID? To listen for messages. There can only ever be one client. Okay, I'm gonna just say we don't need this. It might be because you have multiple iframes, right? But now that's handled differently. Now you actually access, you create the iframe in the iframe component, so they're kind of bound together. So I don't think we need that. I think we're actually, how are we gonna handle this? Iframe ref. Yeah. And then we have like the environment type. So one hook I want to introduce is just use options. So that you have access to the options passed into Sandpack, or like like these components has access to it. So instead of like checking Sandpack environment, it would actually check templates.environment. But this is where it gets tricky, and this is where we're gonna do a lot of rounds of refactoring, I think, because the big change to Sandpack now is that it can run a template, or you can load an existing sandbox or VM. So it's not bound to these templates anymore. But with the templates, we can infer the environment. Well, we can always infer the environment. Yeah, but still we have to know what environment is actually running. So maybe we should yeah, but to me it's more of a question like, what the hell is restart? Is it like restarting the actual node? Oh, notebooks. Oh, that's just a bunch of oh, and this is beta? That's interesting. So what if I want to do, where's node? Quick start, React View. Where's node? Don't we have node there? That's interesting. Do we have an example using Node? Quick start usage. Where's Node? Node, no, Node. Don't we have like a single node example? Like the idea is really to deprecate notebooks in favor of VMs. But I'm curious. Okay, I'm gonna assume it's gonna restart the whole thing. So we need another part to our interface that allows, that indicates like the environment is like you can actually restart the environment. Maybe restart is all we really need. Maybe we just need a restart method. But the question, it should be optional, right? Because you can't restart. Well, I guess you can say restart is more like refresh. Yeah, but this is also like there's so many things I have to think about going through this implementation. Because now it's like, okay, I know shells is going to be only available for VMs and notebooks in the beginning as we're deprecating it. But restart will be a notebook. But that's like, then I would have shell. Maybe it's there, right? Is it supported or is it not supported? But it's kind of weird to have like an optional restart, right? Because that's the thing. Like, I don't think the whole point is for Sandpack React to not know the specifics of the environment. It shouldn't do checks on is this static or is this VM or is it this or is it that. It should just work. But still, there are certain capabilities of certain environments that needs to be exposed, like restarting it. And the question is, how do we do that? And to me, it's weird to have an optional restart. But it's the best I have for now. So let's do that. Let's see. And then in our, where were we? Show restart button. Oh, what's that based on? Show, wait. That's false. Show refresh button. It doesn't have a show restart. That's weird. I think there's a lot of old stuff here as well. So, okay, but then since it doesn't actually use that thing, we're gonna comment this out as well. And then we're gonna write it to do here. Show restart button is never passed. Why is this here? Okay, and then we have refresh, but refresh we actually need. So that's something that, yeah, and then I guess we can say state current equals active. And then we can say state dot preview dot, oh, I thought we had a refresh there. We don't, we need that. So that would be the Sandpack preview. It should have a refresh. I'm not sure if it should actually have a dispose. But anyways, it needs a refresh. So let's build that. And then we're going to go back to the preview. Like the most important thing we're going to do here now is actually try to get the thing bundling something. And this is also interesting. I have no idea what this team ID is. Sign out? Yeah, I have, let's see. Does this say anything about team ID? This is for sandboxes and private npm registry. But what does it do? Why does it say sign out? You can't sign out. Yeah, I have to ask about this. No idea what this is. To do, what is team ID used for? How can you sign out of Sandpack? Like you can't sign into Sandpack, so how can you sign out of it? As far as I know. Okay, loading overlay. Okay, so we're gonna try to get rid of this client ID, I think. Yeah, because this, okay. So let's remove client ID. And the thing we're listening to here is message.type URL change. So this is when the URL changes in the actual iframe. So one thing we haven't implemented here, which we definitely will need, is to have the Sandpack preview has to emit events when things happens inside the preview, right? So the file system is more like watchers, but here we need just events from the preview. So I think we should just have like an emitter of some sort. Do we have? Yeah, let's just call it on message. It is a message from the preview. On message. And then the question is like listener. Yeah. On message. And the message needs to be export type Sandpack preview message. So it definitely has this URL change thing. Let's remove some of these. Message type URL change. I think we actually have, where are these coming from? Ooh. Oh, these are all the messages, Sandpack runtime message. So the funny thing is that these things are not, I don't think these are necessarily so tricky thing here is that these messages aren't in VM previews, right? So except things like URL change, I believe that's also in the yeah, when you run the preview in an iframe, then we send these events. So I think we need to be careful here. So we're gonna just copy this because we need to rethink this, because this should only be actual generic messages. That's true for all environments, right? And then if there's anything specific to an to an environment, ideally that is never exposed to Sandpack React, right? That's just something that's handled within the environment itself. But then there are certain things that needs to be exposed publicly, and this is definitely one of them. So we're gonna implement that, and then we're gonna say on message, and this on message is going to so we have static preview. So we have on iframe event. Yeah, and this is the message, and we can actually pass that on. So what we need is let's call this on iframe message. And we're gonna, I guess we're gonna rather call it on preview message. And then let's call it on iframe message. And then we need some subscribers. So that would be iframe message subscribers, which would be a new set of this for sure. No, this would be the actual disposer. So what we need is, no, sorry. These are the callbacks, of course. Yeah, sorry, I was at the wrong layer. So this would be the Sandpack preview message. And then we're gonna say this.iframe message subscriber message. And let's just log it out. Let's say iframe message, just to have that. And now we need a way to actually subscribe to this. So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna have subscribe. Subscribe on message. Let's just call it on message here as well. Thank you. On message, iframe message subscribers. That's fine. And then we have on message. Now I really dislike using classes, because now I have to like on message, I have to subscriber, I have to type this again, which sucks because of the this binding. I was thinking about like not using classes here at all, just using functions, but maybe that's a little bit too maybe we could refactor that later, because it would be much nicer. So this would be message, Sandpack, preview message, and that returns yes. And then we just call, so this is the public interface of a preview, and then the actual preview is an internal thing. This is also what I don't like, because in a class, you kind of say that some things are public and some things are private. But here, certain things that are public in this class is still private to the environment, right? Well, this is public to everything else. So it doesn't lend itself well to use classes here. It doesn't really do the thing I want it to do. So I think we're gonna do a run later to refactor that. That would be fun. But let's see. So now we have on message. Let's just build the thing. I'm starting to get a little bit tired, I have to admit. And then we're here not passing a client ID. And here what we need here is, okay, so this is going to be interesting. So we can only really Um, so, So this is another issue. Like we can only really, yeah, maybe we should rather have, this is a tricky one. So, God damn it. So we can only listen to the preview when it's actually, this is the thing that bothered me a lot, is in the actual file, sorry, not the file explorer, in the preview, we start out in idle or in pending, and we don't have the preview yet. We only have the preview after we've mounted the iframe. And that means we're not exposing any listeners or anything until we actually so there's an alternative way to do this, and that is to just create the preview immediately when we fire up this thing, but then we have a method on the preview that's called like initialize iframe. So we expose all the methods, like you can listen to events, you can even call like back, forward, all of this stuff, but nothing will really happen until it's actually initialized the iframe, which could be like an event in and of itself or a message. That would simplify it, because then we wouldn't have like this optional, like we would have to pass the state of the preview down here, and then on use effect we would have the state, and then if the state is active, then we start the subscription. Maybe that's fine. We can at least try that for now, because that's really how it works now. So what do we call this thing? We have something called preview state. So let's just import that in Navigator. So that would be Navigator props. Oh, what the hell? Why do we have this and HTML attributes? I don't like that. Do we ever do like, okay, so just spread the props here. I find that like very weird to like, then I would rather have a specific key that's like attributes, right? And that's where I put the actual HTML attributes, not mixing them with all these other things. Okay, but we're not going to fix that now, but we're going to say preview state, and then we're going to just try to do this. So I really want to see if we can get the thing running before I go to bed. That would be nice. So what we're going to do here instead is to check if preview state current equals active. Preview state, preview, on message, and then if message type, we're going to do this instead. Oh, message. Cool. Yeah, and I guess we can just return that like so. Cool. And then there's no use Sandpack here, so that's going to be interesting. Yeah, so we have start route here, which is start route is coming from here. Oh yeah, we need the previous state. Oh, state. Yeah, I wonder why it says. Oh, so if, okay. What's the difference between the pass start route and the Sandpack start route? That's weird to me. We're just gonna do this. But this start route is actually gonna come from options. So yeah, maybe I should just put a bunch of to-dos here. This should rather come from the new use options hook. So what messed? Okay, so oh, this is interesting. Yeah, and again, like we have to check if previous state current equals active, then you can go in and do it, right? Which is annoying. So this will be back, forward. It's correct, but it's still that state check just because we have to mount the iframe first. It bothers me. Because there's also an idea where let's not let the user pass in an iframe. Let's give the user the iframe. Is there a way I can? Is there a way in React? You don't know what Sandpack is? Sandpack is one of the most popular open source library coming out of CodeSandbox. It's a client-side bundler, so it's basically mini CodeSandbox. CodeSandbox as a library, but only the browser bundling. And then it's gotten like a static environment, also gotten like a nodebox environment, but there's a lot of legal stuff around that. So we're gonna replace it with our VMs, which is what I'm working on. But getting VMs in there, like there's so much history of Sandpack, and it really needs a complete like rework of the implementation. Because it's like it's hitting this, you know, when you work on something, you add features, it just blows up completely, and you would have done it very differently if you knew about its current requirements. And also me not having any ownership in the code, I'm kind of forced to do that to even understand the code. Like I can't understand code by just reading it. I have to like think about how it's going to work, and then I have to implement something, and then rather reuse existing code and learn from that, if that makes sense. And by doing that, I get like real ownership of the code. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing here. But introducing VMs here is going to completely flip how Sandpack works. Like it's generally going to work the same, but the internals are flipped. Because now Sandpack is only about being able to like, you have some templates with some browser files, and you compile in the browser. Even with Notebooks, you're doing it in the browser. But with this change with VMs, we're gonna allow you to also reference a sandbox ID that already exists. So you can actually work with your persisted sandboxes in Sandpack. And what's cool about that is that we're also allowing Sandpack to become a service. So you can run npx, like you get an API key from CodeSandbox, you put that API key in front of npx CodeSandbox/Sandpack, and it will actually run a mini CodeSandbox for you. So you can load any of your sandboxes and VMs and everything in this like very simplified editor. And it's all open source. That's the cool thing. So I'm really pumped to work on this project and like take over the ownership of this, because I love working with open source and other developers. So let's see. So we have to remove some stuff. Oh, use Sandpack preview progress. Use loading overlay state. OMG. Okay, I'm not sure if we're gonna actually get to running this thing. Use Sandpack shell. Oh my god, this is horrible. Like horrible for me. Okay, so this is basically just loading up the whole thing. And I think currently it's like, if there's a shell there, it's actually showing information from the shell. What's interesting though, we could actually always have a shell there. It's just that the shell you get from the static and bundle and bundler environment is it's just the state of the actual thing, but it comes out as shell output. That could be interesting. But maybe that doesn't actually make sense. Yeah, it's kind of tricky because these VMs, they do have like some general events related to connecting to them, but they also have something called setup progress, which is tied to actually like after the VM is running, it's setting up the environment, which is shell based. Use loading overlay state. Okay, I just have to, I'm kind of scared to jump in and look at things. So this is all just kind of listening to events. Coming out of okay, so it does have some general events of timeout, running, done, that we could, oh, but these are not events, these are statuses. So a message type of done and start. And first load, that doesn't make sense in a generic context. Oh my god. What are we gonna do about this? So we can definitely drop the shell thing. Like I want to keep it here, but yeah. Preview progress. Message type. Oh my god. And then we have message type done. Yeah, so all of this is like, is too specific, right? This has to be general. Yeah, you see this? Else if message type VM progress. Like this is too specific. Sandpack React shouldn't know anything about environments. It should just listen for messages and then. But there seems to be one thing is messages. Another thing is booting it up, right? Getting it up and running. So what I think we need to do here is we need to have two sets of messages. We need on progress Yeah. We need on progress, and then we need, yeah, so you don't have message type dependencies. You just have like on progress, and then you just get some new messages added to the progress. I wonder why we care about is first load. Set loading message. Okay, so what I think we should introduce is we have something called onMessage, but I think we should also have onProgress. And onProgress is a generic set of events. I don't understand why we have start. So maybe that is like when it restarts or something, you would get like a start event from progress. I guess so. So I guess this is like notebook specific, because that's the only environment you can really restart. But I do wonder why we get the start message so late. Is that related to like, is something else kind of running it at some point? It's not like actually running when you mount it or something. Find that to be weird. Why is there a start event or start message? Yeah, but I wouldn't call it on progress. I would call it like on status change or something. And then you actually can access the status on the environment, but you can also listen to status changes. And then you have on message, which is like that, but that's like that's part of the preview. That's not the environment, right? So, yeah, okay, let's try to implement that. Let's call it status, environment, Sandpack, environment status, export type, Sandpack environment status, current, yeah, and I guess it starts in like loading or something. And then it moves into, yeah, and during loading, like the point is that it can get multiple status updates for loading. Maybe we should like call it events or something. So which is just strings, right? Or like progress. I don't know. Loading, ready. Oh, What happened there? Oh. Or the current is, it could be timeout. Oh. Or timed out. Or I think error. And then the type of like error can be whatever error. We can check that later. Yeah, so now internally it's possible to like emit these state updates or these status updates. And then progress is just generic set of strings that can be used to display in the UI, like what's the progress of loading. And that can come from a shell, it can come from anything. And then we know when it's actually active. What's interesting though is I think I'm mixing the readiness of the preview and the readiness, because that's the tricky thing here. It's like the preview represents different things for VMs and all the other environments. The other environments, the preview is the environment, right? But I don't think that should matter. Or should it matter? Like, this is the really tricky thing with this implementation conceptually, is that a VM environment is such a different beast than like a preview-based browser bundler thing. Sometimes I'm wondering, is like, maybe I'm going at this the wrong way. Maybe we should just have Sandpack client and then we should just implement the VMs just next to it. It shouldn't have anything to do with Sandpack because it isn't Sandpack, it's something else. But then it's going to be super, super difficult to integrate it with the components of Sandpack React because they are completely based on Sandpack client. So yeah, this is a tricky implementation. But what I'm reflecting on now is that it's like it's weird that you have like something called an environment status, but that's driven by the first preview. And you can have multiple previews, which basically means you can have multiple environments, which isn't quite true. Oh, you know what? I think this is the thing I'm gonna sleep on because I'm getting super tired. Like, what the hell does this mean? So I think it still makes sense to have environment status, but for the browser environments, that's like, it just starts in ready, basically. But then you also have like a preview status. And that can be as simple as like the preview is actually like just loading or something. But it's also about getting these messages that's coming from the preview, which is like bundling events, basically. That kind of tells us if the... And that's why we have all of this, like use Sandpack preview progress, right? And dependencies, like this doesn't make any sense for a VM preview. Yeah, but I think... So I think there's too much exposed to Sandpack React here. Like this Sandpack React shouldn't care about any of these things. I think there should rather be a preview state, and that preview state has like a preview status, and that preview status is just like the environment status. It starts in like loading, and then there can be multiple updates to loading. Like, but it's just a generic set of progress messages that you can use to display in the UI, and those messages might again for like the bundler, that's where you get the actual like messages for the preview. But if you're on a VM, there aren't any messages. Like on a VM, the the status progress is on the environment itself, while in the browser bundling environments, it's the preview that's like the actual status, which is weird. Yeah, I've seen this message done. But I guess that's just the thing. It's like, okay, so for VMs, the preview status starts in ready. That's fine. And maybe it doesn't. Maybe it actually starts in loading, and then it's just waiting for the port to pop up. That's its loading state. But for a static thing, it's some other kinds of messages. And then for the bundler, it's another set of messages. Yeah. No, I think we need that. We're gonna implement. So we have Sandpack. So we're gonna call it export type Sandpack preview status, and we're gonna have current loading or current ready. And again, we're just gonna have progress as a set of strings, or it might have an error, which is, oh, not a class, which is just gonna be an error. And then we have status, Sandpack preview status, and then on status change, listener status, Sandpack preview status. Yeah. And then we're gonna have status on status change, but this is gonna be environment status instead. I think this makes most sense. And then it's up to the environment to decide what is its initial status. For some of them, it might be the environment might be ready immediately, but as you're loading up a preview, that preview might have several steps in getting ready. Yeah, I think it has to work like that. Okay, but what would be the next steps then? So we need to, I wasn't prepared for all these different, okay, so we need to implement those statuses. And then from the navigator, we need to, no, the navigator was fine. Where's the, yeah, so like use Sandpack preview progress. Yeah, and again, we're like, we need to pass in the preview state as opposed to the actual preview. Yeah, and now that it even has, you know what? I think we're gonna flip it around. we're gonna do the thing where we actually on the ref we're gonna initialize the preview, because it's gonna start in a pending state anyways right now. Yeah, I think that makes most sense. And then we're gonna leave the methods open so that you can actually call like back and forward and all of this stuff. That's just gonna be available there, even though it's in a state where you can't really do anything about it. But I think that's fine. Because most of it is actually just listening to events, and it doesn't matter what state it's in. You can still just listen to everything. And then back forward, like refresh, you could call refresh at any point, really. That's fine. Back and forward is a little bit weird to call when you're like in a pending state, but those buttons are going to be disabled. But it just creates a little bit of a itch for me to expose methods that's not callable in certain states. But I think we're going to be fine. Let me write this down. I think that is fine. Okay, to do implement method to initialize iframe. Implement method to initialize iframe, because then we can just, when the component loads, we can create the preview. We'll pass the method for initializing the iframe to the actual ref, and then we're good. And then we'll always have the Sandpack preview available in the components, and we can just start listening to things and interacting with things. That's gonna be nice. Yeah, that's gonna be nice. And then we just have to, yeah, just go through all of this and replace them with actual new methods and stuff. It looks super scary, but it should be fine. But it's gonna be super nice to like clean up this stuff, because there's not a clear separation of concerns here. It's just very, very typical historic progress of code bases. You have a separation of concern that makes sense, then you apply something new, and then to make shortcuts, you break that separation of concern, or maybe the introduction of the new feature just completely breaks doesn't make any sense for the current separation of concern, and you have to really refactor it to create a new separation of concern or separation of concerns, and then you just don't do it. And then the history of this project is like, this didn't only happen once, this is the fourth time it's happening, and only now we actually go in and redefine the separation of concerns here. Yeah, but I'm super, like, I love working on this project. So all of this, it was very overwhelming the first day, but now I feel like I have something to contribute there. So that's a good feeling. Yeah, and it's going to be more fun as we kind of nail down this low level, like the actual separation of concerns type of thing, and we can actually see something running. That's going to be fun. So yeah, cool. I guess that's it for me. I need to get to bed. Have a good night, and we'll speak soon. Bye for now.